I'm Natalie. I'm in my late 30s now, living a life that feels quiet and solid and entirely mine. But there was a time, not that long ago, when my world was anything but quiet, and very little of it felt like my own. I was lost in a storm of expectations, navigating currents of obligation and love that felt more like chains. If you've ever felt like you're the invisible helper in your family, the one everyone relies on but nobody truly sees, maybe you'll understand a little bit of what I went through. Growing up, I learned early on what my role was. I was the calm one, the responsible one. My brother, Mark, well, he was different. He was the golden child, the one who needed looking after, the one whose potential had to be nurtured, whose feelings were fragile, whose achievements, no matter how small, were celebrated like national holidays. My achievements? They were just expected. They were quiet nods, sometimes a brief, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation swung back to Mark's latest endeavor or drama. It's strange how you can live inside a dynamic your whole life and not truly see its shape until something shatters it. For me, that something was a wedding, my wedding. It was supposed to be one of the happiest times of my life, a celebration of finding my person, building my own future. Instead, it became the flashpoint, the moment the quiet inequities of my family life exploded into a deafening roar of betrayal. Let me know where you're watching from, and if you've ever felt like you had to sacrifice something important for someone else's convenience or perceived need in your family. Because this story is about the day I was asked to put my entire future on hold. Not because of a crisis, not because of some unavoidable problem, but because it was simply more convenient for my brother. And it was the day I finally realized just how much I had been erasing myself to make others comfortable, and the day I decided I couldn't do it anymore. This is how I learned that some bridges aren't meant to be crossed, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is choose yourself. It started simply enough, as these things often do. A sunny afternoon, the kind that felt full of promise. David and I were finally engaged, 2 years after meeting in a bookstore aisle. David was everything I hadn't known I needed: kind, steady, genuinely interested in my thoughts, my day, me. He saw me, truly saw me, in a way my family never had. Planning our wedding felt like building a little bubble of pure joy, a space just for us, away from the usual undercurrents of my family life. We'd set a date, 18 months out, a lovely autumn Saturday that gave us plenty of time to save, to plan, to savor the process. My mother had initially seemed excited, flipping through bridal magazines, talking about color schemes. My father offered practical advice about venues. Mark. Well, Mark hadn't said much, but that wasn't unusual. Mark drifted through life, charming and feckless in equal measure, always needing a little nudge, a little rescue, a little something. I'd grown up rescuing him. From scraped knees, from missed school buses, from homework he'd forgotten, from jobs he'd quit, from rent he couldn't pay. It was just what you did. Natalie sorted things. Natalie helped Mark. Natalie was dependable. This unspoken agreement was woven into the fabric of our family, a thread so strong I didn't even see it anymore. The first hint of trouble came subtly. A phone call from my mother. Not about RSVPs or centerpieces, but about Mark. He had, she explained with a sigh that suggested the weight of the world rested on her shoulders, finally met someone. Sarah. A lovely girl, apparently, from a very respectable family. And they were hitting it off so well. Mark seemed so happy. "That's wonderful, Mom," I'd said, genuinely pleased for him. I wanted him to be happy, to find his footing. "Yes, darling, it is. But," she paused, a dramatic beat that always preceded a request, a demand, a manipulation. "It's complicated." I waited. My stomach tightened instinctively. "Well, Mark feels," she continued, lowering her voice conspiratorially, as if sharing state secrets, "that with his relationship getting serious, they'll want to progress. You know, Settle down. Get married. Okay, I prompted, confused. How did this relate to my wedding? Well, Natalie, your father and I were talking. And Mark, he needs things to be simple. He's not like you. You handle things so well. You're so organized. Mark gets stressed. My jaw tightened. Mark gets stressed. I handled things. The familiar refrain. Mom, what does this have to do with David and me? Don't you see, darling? It would be a bit much. Two weddings so close together, the expense for everyone, the attention. Mark needs his moment. He needs his family fully focused on him. You understand, don't you? My breath hitched. You want me to postpone my wedding? The words were out before I could stop them, a low, disbelieving whisper. Postpone isn't the right word, she said quickly, backtracking slightly, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Just, maybe be flexible with the date, move it back a little, give Mark and Sarah some space. Space? We were getting married 18 months from now. Mark had just met this girl. How much space did they need? Mom, we've booked the venue. We've sent save the dates. Oh, darling, those things can be changed. It's not the end of the world, it's just a date. It's just a date. The phrase echoed the countless times my feelings, my needs, my plans had been minimized for the sake of Mark's convenience or comfort. It's just a party. It's just your time. It's just your money. It's just your effort. It's just you. My mind flashed back. The summer job I gave up so Mark could use the family car. The college I didn't apply to because it was too far away for me to easily come home and help with Mark if he needed something. The constant stream of small loans, never repaid, because Mark was between jobs. The holidays where I did all the cooking, cleaning, and hosting because Mark wasn't good at that stuff, and Mom needed to focus on making sure he was comfortable. The emotional labor of managing their expectations of him, gently pushing him while shielding him from consequences, a job I had somehow inherited. It wasn't just a date, it was our date, the culmination of our plans, the beginning of our life. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, reasonable, the way I always did. Mark just met this girl. They don't even know if they're getting married yet. But they might, and wouldn't it be wonderful if they did? Don't you want your brother to be happy? Her voice held that familiar, passive-aggressive lilt, implying that my potential happiness was directly opposed to his. Of course I do, but how does my wedding date affect his happiness? It's about consideration, Natalie. About family. About giving your brother the chance to have his special moment without feeling rushed or overshadowed. Overshadowed. Me, overshadowing Mark, the golden child, the one who always shone brightest in their eyes, even when he was merely stumbling in the general direction of a goal. Mom, we've put down deposits. It's a significant amount of money. Oh, money can be sorted out. She waved it away dismissively, as if I hadn't scrimped and saved for this. As if David and I weren't building our future carefully, brick by brick, unlike Mark, whose life seemed to be built on shifting sand and parental bailouts. Your father can help. It's not about the money. It was always about the money when it came to helping me pay for something, but never when it came to Mark's latest crisis. So, you want me to call my fiancé, our families, our vendors, and tell them, what? That my brother might propose at some indeterminate point in the future, so we have to move our wedding? You can put it nicely, darling. Just say the date isn't working out. Say you're considering options. But the date is working out for us. The sigh came again, heavier this time, laden with disappointment. I thought you'd understand, Natalie. You're usually so supportive of Mark. He needs this. He needs this. The ultimate justification. Whatever Mark wanted, whatever Mark needed, took precedence. His needs were important, valid, urgent. Mine were inconvenient footnotes. I felt a familiar knot of guilt begin to twist in my gut. Had I been selfish? Was it really such a big deal to change a date? Maybe they were right. Maybe it would be too much for the family, for Mark. Maybe I was being unsupportive. That night, I talked to David. I explained the conversation, the request. I watched his face fall as I spoke. They want you to postpone our wedding? He asked, his voice quiet, incredulous. They want me to be flexible with the date. I quoted my mother, the bitterness sharp on my tongue. Because Mark might want to get married soon, and they don't want him to feel overshadowed. David was silent for a long moment. He took my hands. Natalie, you've been planning this for a year. We've picked the season you love, the venue you dreamed of. We've spent money. We've invested time and emotional energy. This is our wedding. It's not just a date they can ask you to move, because it might, possibly, maybe, in the future, be slightly inconvenient for your brother. His validation was a lifeline. It cut through the fog of guilt and self-doubt my mother had expertly conjured. I know, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. It just feels like the same thing, over and over. Mark's needs always coming first. It is, David said gently. And it's not okay. You deserve to have your moment. You deserve to have this day be about you, not about accommodating everyone else. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, the knot in my stomach tightening into a hard, painful ball. I thought about all the times I'd shrunk myself, quieted myself, put myself second, third, last. Not just for Mark, but for my parents, whose lives seemed to revolve around managing Mark's various dramas, leaving little energy or attention for anything else. I remembered graduating with honors and getting a card while Mark got a new car for passing a single difficult class. I remembered canceling a trip with friends because Mark was going through a tough breakup and needed me nearby. Even though all he did was play video games in his room, while I sat downstairs feeling resentful and trapped. I remembered being told, more than once, that I was so easy, so independent, unlike poor Mark who needed so much more guidance and support. Being easy meant I didn't require effort, didn't warrant the same level of attention or concern. This wedding request wasn't an isolated incident. It was the predictable, inevitable culmination of a lifetime of being the reliable, invisible one, the one whose needs were inherently less important than the Golden Boys' quote. They weren't asking me to postpone for logistical reasons. They were asking me to postpone because my brother might, one day, maybe, want to get married, and in the unspoken hierarchy of my family, his potential future trumped my actual, planned present. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and phone calls. My mother called again, her tone shifting from gentle suggestion to veiled irritation. Have you thought about what we discussed, Natalie? Yes, Mom, I have. And? The word was sharp, demanding. And I don't think it's fair to David or me to ask us to change our wedding date. A beat of stunned silence. Then, the temperature dropped. You don't think it's fair? Natalie, this is about family. This is about supporting your brother. This is about you asking me to disrupt my life for a hypothetical event. It's not hypothetical. Mark is serious about Sarah. They're talking about the future. Talking about it isn't the same as being engaged and setting a date. We are engaged and have set a date. So, you're just going to plow ahead, regardless of how this affects Mark, regardless of the family dynamic? I'm going to have the wedding David and I have planned. My voice trembled slightly, but I held firm. It felt terrifying, saying no, like stepping off a cliff. I see, she said, her voice icy. I thought you were more understanding. I thought you cared more about your family than this. The accusation stung. It was the ultimate weapon, questioning my love and loyalty. But the pain was dulled by a rising tide of something else. Righteous anger. They didn't want understanding. They wanted compliance. They didn't want my support. They wanted my subservience. I do care about my family, I said, my voice gaining strength. But caring about my family doesn't mean I have to sacrifice my own life and my own happiness whenever you or Mark deem it necessary. You're being very selfish, Natalie. Selfish. The word felt like a brand. For years, I had prided myself on not being selfish, on being the giving one, the helpful one. Now, asserting a basic right to my own life, was labeled selfishness. No, I said, the word clear and firm. I'm finally choosing not to be a doormat. There was a gasp on the other end of the line. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm speaking my truth, Mom. I'm not changing my wedding date. She hung up. The silence that followed was deafening. My hand trembled as I lowered the phone. I had done it. I had said no. I had set a boundary. And the immediate consequence felt like a seismic rupture. The calls from my father started soon after. His approach was different, less emotional, more pragmatic on the surface, but laced with the same underlying pressure. Natalie, your mother is very upset. You know how she gets. Ah, yes, Mom's delicate constitution. Always a factor. Dad, I can't change the date. It's not feasible financially or emotionally. But Mark, they really like this girl, Natalie. This could be it for him. Again, Mark, his potential future. My present reality. That's great for Mark, Dad. I hope they get married. But that has nothing to do with David and me getting married on the date we chose. Can't you just find another weekend? Later in the year? Next year? No, Dad. The venue is booked. The vendors are booked. Our out-of-town guests have made arrangements. We're not moving our wedding. His tone hardened. Your mother feels you're being difficult. That you're not thinking of the family. I am thinking of my family, I insisted, though the word family was starting to taste like ash in my mouth. I'm just not agreeing to put Mark first again at my own expense. You need to understand, Natalie. Mark needs stability. He needs to feel supported. A big family event like this, yours first, might make him feel pressured. Like he has to rush things with Sarah. The absurdity of it was breathtaking. My entire life, Mark had been allowed to drift, to take his time, to fail without significant consequence, while I was held to impossibly high standards of responsibility and compliance. Now, my planned, organized life was a threat to his delicate sensibilities. Dad, Mark is in his 30s. He's capable of handling 2 family weddings, should they happen. This isn't about Mark feeling pressured. This is about Mom wanting things done her way, centering Mark, as usual. The line went silent for a moment. I knew I had hit a nerve. They didn't like it when I named the dynamic, when I pulled back the curtain on the favoritism. Well, my father said finally, his voice clipped and cold. Your mother and I are very disappointed in you, Natalie. Disappointed. Another familiar weapon. I had spent my life trying to avoid their disappointment. Now, here it was, wielded like a club. But this time, it didn't crumble me. It solidified something inside me, a resolve as hard as stone. I'm sorry you feel that way, Dad, I said. And I meant it, but not in a way that signaled capitulation. I was sorry for them, that they couldn't see what they were doing. I was sorry that their love seemed so conditional, so transactional. But I'm not changing our date. He sighed, a mirror image of my mother's sigh. Don't expect much support from us then. The implication was clear. By choosing myself, I was choosing to be outside their circle of favor. I was risking ostracism. The thought terrified me, but the alternative, caving in, resenting my own wedding day, setting a precedent for the rest of my marriage, felt like a slow, agonizing death of the spirit. Okay, Dad, I said softly. I understand. We hung up. This time, the silence wasn't just deafening, it was heavy with absence, with the weight of a family unit fracturing. The next few weeks were agonizing. My mother didn't call. My father's calls were brief and strained, focused on practicalities that had nothing to do with the wedding. Mark didn't reach out either, which wasn't surprising. He rarely initiated contact unless he needed something. He likely knew about the conflict but stayed out of it, the beneficiary of the drama but not the one facing the fallout. Word trickled through the family grapevine. Whispers about me being difficult, selfish, ungrateful. Some relatives, coached by my mother, called to gently suggest that maybe I should reconsider, for the sake of family harmony. Each call was a fresh stab, a reminder of the narrative being spun, the isolation they were creating around me. It hurt, God, It hurt. My family, the people who were supposed to love and support me unconditionally, were actively working against me, not because I had done anything wrong, but because I refused to bend to their unfair demands. It felt like a profound betrayal, a confirmation that their love for me was conditional on my compliance and my willingness to prioritize Mark. David was my rock during this time. He listened patiently, held me when I cried, validated my feelings, and never once suggested I give in. "This is about them, not you, Natalie," he'd say. "They have a script, and they want you to play your part. But you don't have to anymore. You're writing your own script now." His belief in me, in us, was the anchor that kept me from drifting into despair. We leaned on each other, finding strength in our shared resolve. We contacted our vendors, confirming everything. We talked to our bridal party, explaining the situation simply, that our family was having trouble with the date, but we were moving forward as planned. Our friends were universally supportive, expressing outrage on our behalf. Their reaction highlighted how unreasonable my family's request truly was. As our wedding date approached, the tension with my family was palpable. Invitations were sent, but my parents didn't confirm whether they would attend. My mother made passive-aggressive comments to other relatives about the cost and inconvenience. Mark remained silent. I mourned the wedding I had envisioned, the one where my parents walked me down the aisle, where my family celebrated alongside David's. That version was gone. In its place was a different kind of wedding, one born of conflict and boundary setting. 2 weeks before the wedding, my mother called. I answered, my heart pounding. "Natalie," she said, her voice stiff and formal. "Yes, Mom? Your father and I have discussed it. We will be attending your wedding. It is, after all, our duty." Duty. Not joy. Not celebration. Duty. The word was like a cold stone. "Okay, Mom. Thank you. We expect you to be gracious," she added, her voice laced with warning. "I will be," I promised, though the lump in my throat made it hard to speak. Mark also confirmed he would be there, via a brief text message. No apology, no explanation for his silence. Just a simple, "Will be there." The wedding day arrived, crisp and beautiful, just as I had planned. The venue was perfect, the flowers stunning, the music exactly right. David was handsome and beaming. Our friends and his family surrounded us with warmth and genuine happiness. And my family? They were there. My mother wore a strained smile, her eyes darting around, looking perpetually uncomfortable. My father was quiet, polite, but distant. Mark was there, physically present, but emotionally a million miles away. There were no tearful hugs, no warm congratulations from them that felt authentic. Just stilted interactions, polite small talk that skimmed the surface of the vast, silent ocean between us. Walking down the aisle, I didn't take my father's arm. He hadn't offered, and I hadn't asked. David met me halfway, and we walked the rest of the way together, hand in hand. That walk, just the two of us, felt profoundly significant. It symbolized our unity, our independence, the new family we were creating, one based on mutual respect and equal partnership, not obligation and unspoken hierarchies. The ceremony was beautiful. I looked into David's eyes and saw nothing but love and unwavering support. In that moment, surrounded by people who chose to be there to celebrate us, the absence of genuine warmth from my own family was a quiet ache, but it didn't break me. It fueled me. It solidified the understanding that I had made the right choice. I had chosen my worth. I had chosen my marriage. I had chosen myself. The reception was wonderful, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts from our friends. My parents left early, citing tiredness. Mark lingered for a bit, looking awkward, before also disappearing without much fanfare. There was no dramatic scene, no shouted arguments, just a quiet, undeniable confirmation of the distance that had grown between us. By setting a boundary, I had created space, space for myself, but also space from them. and in that space, I could finally breathe. The period after the wedding was difficult. The calls from my parents became even less frequent, the conversations stilted. They never explicitly apologized for the wedding demand or their reaction. Instead, they acted as if nothing significant had happened, while simultaneously withholding the warmth and closeness that had once been the default, even if it was conditional. Mark and Sarah did eventually get engaged, about a year after my wedding. My parents threw them a lavish engagement party, a stark contrast to the subdued atmosphere surrounding my own. They doted on Sarah, openly discussing wedding plans, dates, venues. It was another quiet reminder of the favoritism, but this time, it didn't crush me. It just confirmed what I already knew. I remember my mother mentioning the date Mark and Sarah were considering. It was the exact weekend, 1 year later, that I would have had to postpone my wedding to. A chilling coincidence or a deliberate, passive-aggressive choice? I didn't know, and strangely, I found I didn't care as much as I would have before. Their choices were theirs. My life was mine. I went through a period of grief, grieving the family I thought I had, the unconditional love I had yearned for. It's painful to accept that the people who are supposed to be your safe harbor are actually the source of some of your deepest wounds. I cried. I felt angry. I felt incredibly sad. But alongside the grief, there was liberation. I was no longer tethered to their expectations. I no longer twisted myself into knots trying to anticipate their needs or earn their full approval. I had stopped performing the role of the compliant, self-sacrificing daughter, sister. I started saying no more often, to small requests that would have previously felt like obligations. I invested my time and energy into my marriage, my friendships, my career, my hobbies, things that nourished me. I discovered new parts of myself, parts that had been dormant under the weight of family obligation. I sought therapy, which was incredibly helpful. My therapist validated my experiences, helped me understand the dynamics I'd grown up in, and gave me tools to process the pain and build healthier relationships. I learned about covert narcissism, about emotional blackmail, about the ways toxic family systems operate. Understanding the mechanics of it didn't excuse their behavior, but it helped me depersonalize it. It wasn't that I wasn't worthy. It was that their system was fundamentally broken, and I had been assigned the role of the compliant rescuer, a role I was no longer willing to play. My relationship with David deepened through this. He had seen the worst of the family dynamics and chosen to stand by me. His love felt like a solid foundation, built on mutual respect and clear communication, a refreshing contrast to the shifting sands of my family relationships. Contact with my parents became sporadic. Holiday gatherings were strained. There was an unspoken agreement not to discuss the past, but the silence itself was loud. Mark and I spoke occasionally, mostly polite small talk. He seemed to have settled down with Sarah, and while I was happy for him on a surface level, the deep sibling connection I had longed for felt impossible. Tainted by the years of imbalance and his passive acceptance of the dynamic. There were moments of doubt, of course. Moments when I missed the idea of a close-knit family. Moments when I wondered if I could have handled things differently, made them understand. But then I'd remember the coldness, the disappointment, the fundamental unfairness of their demand, and I'd reaffirm my choice. I hadn't walked away from them. I had walked towards myself. Years passed. Mark got married. I attended, polite and distant, a guest rather than a core family member. My parents were beaming, the picture of proud parents, their focus entirely on Mark and his new wife. Seeing it, the overt favoritism felt less like a fresh wound and more like looking at an old scar. It was a part of my history, a pattern that no longer had the power to define me or dictate my actions. My life flourished. David and I built a beautiful home together, literally and figuratively. We traveled, we pursued our passions, we supported each other's growth. We created our own family, one chosen and nurtured with care. The peace I found wasn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of inner strength. It was the peace that came from knowing my worth, setting my boundaries, and refusing to compromise my integrity for the sake of others' comfort or convenience. I learned that some relationships, even family ones, can be fundamentally unhealthy. That it's okay, and necessary, to create distance when those relationships are built on exploitation and conditional love. That you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. The scar of that time remains, a reminder of where I came from and what I survived. But it's not a source of pain anymore, it's a mark of resilience. It's the place where my voice began, where I finally stood up and claimed my space in the world. I was told to postpone my wedding so my brother could have his first. I refused. And in that refusal, I didn't just save a date. I saved myself. So, that's my story. It's a story about a wedding, yes, but it's also a story about family, about betrayal, and about finding your voice when you feel like you've been silenced for a lifetime. It's a story about learning that your worth isn't determined by how much you sacrifice for others, but by how bravely you choose yourself. If you're in a similar situation, feeling overlooked or exploited in your own family, please know that you are not alone. Your feelings are valid. Your needs matter. It is okay to set boundaries, even if it causes discomfort or conflict. It is okay to choose yourself. It is not selfish to refuse to be a doormat. Reclaiming your life from toxic dynamics is a difficult journey, full of pain and tough decisions. But it is also incredibly freeing. The peace you find on the other side, the solid ground of your own self-worth, is worth every step. Thank you for listening. If this resonated with you, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel for more stories about navigating difficult relationships and finding your strength. And share your own experiences in the comments below. Reading your stories helps all of us feel less alone. Remember, you are worthy of love and respect, exactly as you are, without having to earn it through sacrifice. Your life is yours to live. Choose it bravely.